Overthinking will run your life if you do nothing about it. And this isn't because you're weak or you're broken or you need fixing. It's simply how the system works. The system of being a human with a brain. Now, overthinking can look like lying awake in bed at night, unable to fall asleep, rewriting your emails, second guessing your decisions, replaying conversations in your head. Even though you're tired, you're unable to shut off the mind. Now, this doesn't just steal your inner peace, it also steals your energy and your focus, and it keeps you from being present when you're around the ones you love. Many people believe that overthinking is a mindset problem or a personality trait or something you just have to learn to live with. But that's not true. Overthinking is what happens when your mind and body are stuck in always on mode. It makes your system believe that everything is urgent, everything is a priority, even when it's not. The good news is that overthinking is a learned behavior. And so that means that it can be unlearned as well. And it doesn't require you to force yourself to think positive or shout affirmations in the mirror. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what's going on and what you can do to start quieting the noise of the overthinking mind. This is especially common in ambitious and driven individuals. I see it a lot in my entrepreneur and business owner clients. And of course, I had a ton of overthinking as I was going through a lot of this process and my own self development journey myself. So please go ahead, give this video a like, and let's dive in. So we're going to go to the iPad here, and I'm going to draw what overthinking looks like, what's happening inside the mind. So I'm going to draw my buddy Zach. This is what I call my my little stick figure here. And he's generally a happy guy. I remembered if I don't draw his pupils, then he looks weird. So he's generally a happy guy. What happens with overthinking is we get all of these barriers in our mind. And so a barrier basically looks like, like a bumper in bowling. It's kind of like that. And so basically it's places that you don't allow, there's some energy there. There's something that's stopping you from letting your thoughts just be what they're going to be in a more positive way. And so let's say one of these barriers comes from thinking, I'm not enough. Or maybe it comes from thinking, some belief around deserving, like I don't deserve this, right? X, Y, Z, whatever that thing is. Maybe another one is like I'm scared of consequences. And that's a pretty subconscious thing of consequences, right? As we're raised by our family, there are probably consequences for bad behavior that gets ingrained into our psyches, and our nervous systems are wired to fear consequences, right? This happens. What about like rejection? I fear rejection. And so all of these become these little like bumpers in your mind, for example. So what happens, sorry, Zach, I'm erasing your face, is you have a thought. And your thoughts can come from kind of within you, within your mind, within your body. They can come from like out there as a download from the field, the universe, whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to start with one here. And so what happens is you're going to have a thought, and it's going to, just for the sake of the visualization, it's going to travel in some direction. And so guess what happens? It's going to bounce off that bumper, and then it's going to go and travel until it hits the next one, and then it's going to hit the next one and the next one until maybe kind of finds its way out, and you find some calm and some quiet after you have a thought that started a line of thinking or a train of thought, for example. This is a super basic example. So let's kind of take this up a notch, because what happens is, we believe we don't deserve, we believe we're scared of consequences, of course, we fear rejection, those are just a few. And so in reality, we really get multiple layers of these barriers. And we wonder why it's so loud in our heads, right? This is what happens from a visualization of what's going on in our minds. I mean, we grew up in families that told us how to be and who to be, and there was rules for everything. And then society tells us who to be and how to be. And then we go to school and there's rules in school and we want to be popular, we want to be liked, or whatever it is. We want to fit in. And so we learn all of these rules. And so all of these little bumpers and all these little barriers, they come into existence because we put them there in a way. That's kind of the crazy thing once you go down the route of self-improvement is that we do this to ourselves. But anyway, you can probably see what's coming now, right? So like you have a thought and it starts to think about something, right? Let's say it's like I want that job or I want that girl or I want to make $1 million, whatever it is. It's like, okay, boom, I don't deserve this. Boom, I fear rejection. Whoops. I didn't need to do that automatically. And so, you have this thought that started out as like one little thing. I want to take this action. Whatever it is. And then it just starts playing Plinko in your head. And so no wonder we have so many noises in our head. And these can be noises of our own beliefs. A lot of times they can be voices from other people, voices from our parents, our dad, our mom, our coaches, our teachers, our grandparents, whoever, right? Family members that they all told us things trying to help us be who we are, right? Trying to help us grow as a person in society. And so we have, whenever we think of buying a car or whatever, filling up your car with gas, you think of like your dad telling you how to do it, right? Or every time you go to tie your shoes, you think of your grandma teaching you how to tie your shoes. Or every time you're driving down the road and you're changing lanes, my dad always used to say, better to hurry up and wait than wait and hurry up, right? So it's like these things get embedded in us. And so we have these mental barriers or these, visually I'm calling them barriers, but they're voices, they're parts of our psyches that come in when we have certain types of thoughts. And so we get this crazy crisscross pattern in our heads when we had one little idea and it just bounces around all the time. That's the noise. So you can see that if we have this kind of psyche structure, the structure in our heads, if we force positive emotion or some positive thought or affirmations, it doesn't change the structure. It's not really doing that. A lot of beliefs of affirmations is that you're carving in new neural pathways. You're kind of adding in some neural pathways, yeah, and the old ones are still there. That happened to me. I did a lot of positive affirmations and I could feel the changes happening. And very quickly, from when I stopped saying the affirmations, I reverted back to my old way of feeling and thinking. And since then, there's other modalities that I've done that don't wear off quite so quickly, right? So they're actually changing things at a much deeper level. Affirmations to me still feel pretty surface level. So again, some of these can be, you know, I'm not enough. That's a very popular one. It can be I'm responsible. I'm responsible for XYZ, you know? Or how about this? It's not perfect. How many of us have that one? Right? It's not perfect. What about, a lot of ambitious, again, entrepreneurs? What if, and like what ifs play in here for sure, right? What if I lose everything? That can be a big one too. Um, what will other people think? What will they think? Right? A lot of these kind of scenarios in our head. Or, again, it can also be um, voices from parents, coaches, teachers, aunts or uncles, siblings. I mean, sibling rivalry is one of the oldest stories in the book. And so you can definitely get conditioned and programmed via your siblings. Honestly, anybody else, other family, neighbors. I mean, why not? Really, anyone, friends, anyone in your community, especially as you're growing up. So, how do we fix this? How do we fix this? Really, the goal is to start removing the barriers, right? What if we remove that one? What if we removed this one that is so close to the start of it all, right? These ones that are close to the mind, what if we could remove those, right? It takes time. What I've experienced in my journey and with helping others is you start with the ones on the outside, right? You start to pull these ones down. These are, I call them low hanging fruit. You start to remove the barriers. And as you remove the barriers, it's going to become a lot more quiet in your mind for sure. But then something else is going to happen. So this is what we don't want. This is the state. Let's look at what we want to get to. What we want to get to, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. We're going to draw my buddy Zach again. I just call him Zach. Got to give him a name, right? Okay, so here he is. What we want, instead of all of our negative beliefs and our overthinking to hold us back from taking any action, because what's happening here is you have all this stuff going in all these different directions, right? We have this one, obviously they all point kind of like to each other and inwards, for lack of a better word. What we want to happen is we want coherence. We want everything to point or cause us to think in the same direction. And so, what that could look like, let's just think about the ideal state, right? What that could look like is more of this kind of like onwards and upwards, keeping everything in the same trajectory kind of a situation. And so, now if you have some thought, it's going to do this kind of emotion instead of bouncing around and being super noisy, right? So you want to build a set of beliefs and a mindset and a psyche that is geared towards pushing everything in the direction that you want to go. So, that could be one example. Let's do another one, right? Where it's like, maybe I don't want to say goes off in like the wrong direction, but if it hits something, it can still, let's say it still takes time, but we know that our beliefs are in general pointing us in this direction, right? We want to move in the same direction as opposed to here where it's like we're going this way and this way and this way and this way. It's, some are going opposite directions and everything. Like it's a vector field that is just scattered. We do not want this, right? We want this. We want coherence. We want all of our arrows to be pointing in the same direction pretty much. And if they're a little farther out, right, then we can bring them back in as long as everything kind of points upwards. Now, this is probably just a new concept. It's an interesting way to visualize it, I think. But as you have, an idea and it learns and you teach yourself to remove all of the barriers that are causing the chaotic thinking. And not only remove those barriers that cause the chaotic thinking, but you start to add in what's going to be like your values, your mission, or your purpose. Some people call this your why you're doing things. Letting go of distractions. I'm going to erase some more stuff here. This is things like Healing, right? As you heal, you learn to have new perspectives that, I mean, obviously as you heal, you remove a lot of the chaotic stuff, but you also start to understand why you were the way you were, and you get new perspectives on yourself. Perspectives. And that helps you make clearer decisions. So having decision making frameworks, knowing your values is super important. Knowing your mission, honestly, knowing your mission is one of the best things you can do, especially as a man. You really need to do that. I've got another video somewhere about, I think, how to choose your mission. If I find it, I'll link to it later. Distractions, of course, are huge. Um, and some other ways you can do this too is like your environment. Our environment can be very distracting. And when you get around an environment that is more supportive, that really, really helps you stay focused and keep your barriers all going in the same direction, right? Your thoughts going all in the same direction. Your people, like the friends that you surround yourself with, right? If you have friends that like to go out and party and cause chaos, some people enjoy chaos. Honestly, I don't understand it. I've always been a level headed, a person who prefers more organization and order and harmony, and some people enjoy chaos. If you're around friends that enjoy chaos, and especially if they're not aligned with you in your values and your mission and your purpose, then this can happen. And so you've got to watch out. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? We all know that. We all believe that. We've probably all experienced that. You can look back on your life and realize that it's true. This is part of what happens when you're around people. If they all think the same way, then you're going to start thinking in that way. And if they think in this chaotic way, you're probably going to get entrained with them and entangled and enmeshed and also start thinking in this chaotic way also, unless you actively do the work to not let it happen. So this is what we're going for. So how do we change this? Right? That's the question. How do we change? So how do we change? A lot of people have the chaotic noise, right? A lot of us live in this state where we have all of these things going on. There's a lot of noise, all this crisscross going on in our mind. And this is why people drink. I honestly think this is a huge reason why people drink alcohol. What it does is it fades the barriers, right? It's called liquid courage. It lowers my inhibitions. It makes me not think so much. It gets me out of my head. These are the things people say as to why they intentionally choose to drink alcohol, is because there's all these things, there's all this noise, and the alcohol makes it fade away. But it's only temporary. It's not a permanent fix. I mean, it's definitely not a fix. It's damaging to your mind and to your body in so many ways. And it's just a quick temporary band-aid. It's not even a band-aid. It's just you're numbing yourself out from what's really going on here. So alcohol is one way. I'm going to write it in red. Alcohol is not what we want to use to fix this problem. Another thing related to alcohol, of course, is drugs. Same thing, right? You're just numbing yourself out. One thing that I think is interesting is as you start to go down the path of self improvement and a lot of this quieting the mind, right? That's what we want. We want to quiet the mind, but not just quiet it, we want to align it. But most people just focus on quieting. And so a lot of people turn to meditation. And I think meditation is interesting. Meditation, most meditations are going to have you focus on your breath. And so what they say is if you can focus on your breath, if you can train your mind to focus on your breath, then you're kind of learning how to ignore and avoid the chaos in the head because you're training yourself to focus on the breath instead. I think this is also mostly a form of avoidance. I think they're more like an escape, a temporary feel good. I don't necessarily think it's a productive, actually changing things at the root level approach. Meditation didn't help me go from this red chaotic web to this more aligned approach where everything is kind of in alignment, right? Meditation kind of helps you quiet things down for a moment, for a little while, but it doesn't necessarily reorient or remove the barriers. So most meditations, I think, are also not what we want, especially I think if they're purely focusing on the breath. Some people might fight me on this. You might disagree. I think there's better ways. So what I believe is the best way to go about this is removing the barriers. And the way I've done this is through a specific type of energy work. And this is what I teach my clients. I think it's fascinating. It's not really something too easy to describe in a video like this, but basically you go in and you find the barrier you want to remove and you remove the barrier. So the first step before you do that is really identify what they are. Identify your your barriers, your thoughts that are constant, that are always there, that are keeping you from being your best. And that is a lot of these ones here that we talked about, right? I am not enough. I'm responsible for everything, right? It's all up to me. Um, it's not perfect. I have to make it perfect. I have to be perfect. What if I lose everything? What are the other people going to think? You know, all of these types of thoughts, these core beliefs, start to identify what they are. As you identify what they are, you can find where they come from. Find where they come from. Because this tells you, this helps you realize, like, oh, there was a time where I didn't have this, and then when I started to believe it, if that makes sense. So you want to identify it. That's step one. Step two, you want to find where they come from. Step three is you want to let it go. Let it. That isn't it. Uh, let it go. And let it go, let it go. Such a good song, by the way. I've got a cover of it. I think it's hilarious. I think it's great. Um, Sorry, a little rambling. You want to let it go. So you want to identify it, find where it comes from, and then you want to actually let go and dissolve that barrier. And so as you do that, and this is half the process, right? So let me write that down here actually. Removing the barriers is like your grand step one, and then your grand step two, I'm going to get to in just a second. But as you learn to do this process of removing the barriers, that is the process of deleting the barriers, deleting them like this. They just start to disappear. And so, what do you do after that? Let's say you remove a lot of them, right? Okay, now we need to build this, right? We want to go, I'm going to zoom out. We want to go from this to this, right? We want to go from red to green, from noise to alignment to coherence, from chaos to order, from being pulled in so many different directions and cognitive dissonance to an alignment internally that we know what we're doing and who we are. So as you let it go, you then want to do the next step, which is add in new barriers, the ones you want. As I mentioned before, things like your values, if you don't know what they are, you want to find them out. Your mission, what is your purpose here? What are you doing all of this life thing for? Is it your family? Is it impacting others in a specific way? You want to figure this out. That's going to help you decide on the way you're going to take your life. And the way you're going to take your life is going to answer the question of what kind of barriers do I want, right? Your morals. More, I can totally spell, guys, I swear. Your morals. your belief systems, right? All of these things that are going to start to give you your own rules and decisions for operating in this world, as opposed to this kind of chaotic approach where everyone else was influencing you, right? It kind of came from all the voices from your past. And now we want to decide who we're actually going to be ourselves. And so as you start to remove the barriers and all the lines and everything, and you let those go, you then it's going to create calm and inner peace for sure. And then we want to make sure those don't come in. And the way we do that is we add the new ones, which then helps us discern which way in life we're going to go in any given moment. Or when we have a certain thought, we can be like, you know what? That's not true. That's not me. That wasn't my thought. That didn't come from it didn't come from a place that was authentic. It was just noise in my head, and it bounced off or it found or came from one of those like red barriers, those red lines, as opposed to something that is actually congruent in who I am. So it really helps you discern this is me and this was not me. So in reality, as you do a lot of this work, you're going to have your green barriers. And actually, that one should be more, pointing upwards. And you're still going to have some red ones. No one's perfect. I'm not perfect. You're still going to have some red ones. But over time, you're going to have a lot more green ones. And so that's the goal. And that's how it works. You slowly remove what you don't want. And then you have this kind of like lull and this inner peace. And then you start to add in what you do want. And that helps you move in the direction in life you want to go. And that is how you quiet the inner critic. That is how you quiet overthinking. And that is how you find inner peace. Finally, that's how I did it. Super powerful. And this is why I don't think meditation does this, because it doesn't rearrange this whole internal structure. So I hope that makes sense, guys. I know we just talked a lot. I know this is a deep topic to think about. I am no artist, as you can tell, um, but as you remove a lot of these barriers and you have some thought, you're going to have a more quiet mind, because you're simply going to have less lines going through your mind, right? You're going to have maybe a couple, something that looks more like this as opposed to something that looks like this, right? This is no fun. I've been there. It used to take me an hour to fall asleep. We want to get to this place. This is our goal, right? So quick review: alcohol and drugs, stuff like that, substances, you're numbing yourself out. Meditations, those types of things to like temporarily calm you down. I think they're good tools for like a quick thing in the moment if you don't know what else to do. Like breathing techniques, stuff like that. That all falls under that middle barrier, that middle right here, this middle level, the orange level. Really, I think removal of the barriers is the key point. And that is where, for me, it's been energy work. That's what I teach. If you find another way, great. Please let me know. Really finding where these come from, letting them go, and then adding in the new ones with your values, your mission, and stuff is super key. And you can try to add in the new barriers, like your values and your mission, new morals, new beliefs, stuff like that. I think that's kind of what affirmations try to do, and it's still not doing the removal piece. I think the removal piece is the key. It's so important that that's where we want to be at. So anyway, I'll leave it here. Thanks for watching this video. I've got another one that talks about mental harmony, and I get into more details about what cognitive dissonance is, what happens. That can be a lot of the mental barriers that we have. So if you want to learn more about creating mental harmony and reducing cognitive dissonance, go ahead and watch this video right here.